Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Bar G Team Crane. Doing a new series. We're going to call this Truck Talks. I guess more of a podcast format. Just kind of my thoughts as I drive home from work. Just thought I'd just go off the cuff and just unscripted, just kind of go talk what I've been thinking on. So yeah, go ahead, tune in, listen. Today's topic's probably going to be one that's highly debated, highly talked about in some circles, and I guess it would be debate of the new 7s. And what do I mean by new 7s? Well, there are two new 7mm. Your two that you got are your 6.8 Western and 7 PRC. Now, you have some good bullet offerings in all of them. Really, in the 6.8 Western, you are missing, if you're going to say you're missing a bullet for hunting purposes or anything like that, you're missing the 2 Hornady bullets. You're missing, or I guess you could say 3 Hornady bullets that you're missing. You're missing ELDX, ELDM, and then your copper, whatever they call it, your CX, which you get the shoot good on you. But those are, I guess, the bullets you're missing if you're going to miss a bullet in the lineup. Now, the other bullets that you do have in the lineup of the 6.8 Western and 7 PRC that I'm going to cover, kind of go off the cuff and share about, are your Sierra Tip Game Kings, your Burger Elite Hunters, and then your Nosler AccuBonds. And we can kind of talk a little bit about the ballistic tips. Probably throw that in there because you do have a 170 ballistic tip from Nosler in the 6.8 Western. That the biggest 7mm that you have is a 160. That I remember at the time of filming. Now that could be all subject to change and everything, but that's what we're going to kind of go with. So, in my 6.8 Western, it's Fierce Rage, 26-inch barrel, got some factory ammo, and then just through life experience when I've been around 7 PRCs, whether it's been with reloading Weatherby and previous work functions, or just seeing other people at the range shooting. That's kind of what I'm basing stuff off with. Now with the 6.8 Western 175 Tip Game Kings, it's a 175 grain bullet. That one in my rifle, factory ammunition, it's a 175 going about 2910. Ballistic coefficient G1 is 0.633 if I remember correctly. And then it's a G7 of 0.315. There's a counterpart to that in the 7mm, and that is a 180 grain Sierra Tip Game King, and it is, let's see, G1 BC I want to say is 632, and then G7 0.310 or 305. You can go to Sierra's website and check on that. I did look it up before I came here to start talking, right as I was leaving work, but I don't remember 100% off the top of my head. Come on, people. But I'm getting 2,900 feet a second. Now, properly loaded, comparable 7 PRC, I would say with 24-inch barrel, mind you, with some 180s, you're going to get about 2,850 feet a second with the 180, at least in the Hornady ELDM. Okay, come on. Let me over. Yeah, it's Truck Talks. I'm actually driving, so, you know, driving comes first, this comes second. But you're going to get 2850 and a 24-inch barrel with 7 PRC. Best case scenario for what's out there for what you're going to get. You're not going to get a whole year reloaded powders for any time in the foreseeable future. If you have some lying around, sweet. If you're overpressure and overloaded, yeah, you're going to get faster. But say 26-inch barrel, 7 PRC, 180, going 2,900 feet per second. Yeah, just went over the BCs. There's 5 grains of difference in the bullets. Your diameter is a 277 versus a 284. You're not going to have a significant difference in impact velocity and how the bullets behave, assuming that they hit the exact same place on the ammo hole at the exact same time, exact same condition, blah blah blah. We will take that assumption. There will not be a significant difference. There just won't. If anyone's butthurt over that, cool for you, I guess. But there's not a significant difference. 2,900, virtually the same BC. I mean, G1 of 633 versus 632. There's going to be a little bit of variance from bullet to bullet. You're dead nuts the same. You're going to put it in a ballistics calculator, and it's going to spit out the same stuff no matter what your elevation is, what your weather conditions, whatever. Like, they are going to fly the exact same with the same muzzle velocity. Just is what it is. Benefits of the 6.8 Western in that scenario: you're less powder, your recoil energy is with similarly configured rifles is going to be negligible. You're running a short action versus a long action for practically the same performance. Now, where things kind of get a little bit interesting, I would say, is with these nozzler AccuBonds. Off the top of my head, and I'm going to pick 2 bullets that are the closest. Maybe not the one that you're going to run, but these bullets are the closest in BC and weight range. But you're talking 165 ABLR, and then your 168 ABLR, or 165 ABLR in the 6.8 Western and the 168 in the 7. You have G1 BCs of 620 for the 165, and then a 612 for the 168 and the 7, or 284 diameter. So really, really close. The 175, for those that are curious, you're going to be running, if I remember correct, it's a .648. So even in just the 168 versus 175, you're getting maybe just over 35 thousandths better, 35, 36, 38 thousandths? No, 36 thousandths better of a G1 BC for like 7 grains more bullet. Just a general rule of thumb, which I kind of run by, which is it's relatively, I guess you can run with it. I wouldn't say true, but relatively predictable, is about every 10 grains of bullet weight you increase for a cartridge, you're going to subtract about 100 feet per second. So about 10 feet per second per grain, roughly, is what your difference is. So say with that 168 ABLR compared to the 175 ABLR, you're going to be about 70 feet per second difference in the muzzle velocity. Now, factory ammo, out with the 165 ABLR in my gun, it was running 30, 50. 30, I would say 30, 50 on the top end, 30, 60 on the top end, 30, 20 on the low end. So, pretty darn good. And that's out of a 26-inch barrel, mind you. I know 175s recently with ELDX ammo. I know Federal for a while there, you were actually getting really close to that $3,000 with a 24-inch barrel. At least Hornady ammo, you're lucky to be scratching the 2,900 feet per second range. So, if we're going to go roughly, say, 70 feet per second faster than it, say with Federal ammunition, you're going to be right in there with 6.8 Western, with a 26-inch barrel at 7 PRC, and with that 168 ABLR. You're really, really stinking close on BCs and weight. So your energy, I mean, the kinetic energy, for those of you that care, equation is 1/2 your mass times your velocity squared. So if you're running the same velocity there, half your mass is going in there, so you're 1.5 grains of difference going into your energy. Your velocity is more of an impact there, and it's not going to be that significant of a difference. An animal isn't going to know the difference if it got hit, comparatively speaking. It's just math. Now, I could go through the same song and dance with these 175 the Burger Elite Hunters, or the 170 EOL, which is the top dog for the 6.8 Western. I would say, just my personal opinion, it's what I run. And then for the 175 Burger Elite Hunter, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the heaviest, the hardest hitting, but I would say it's the most constructive for that cartridge. You're not overweighting. At 195, you're going to make that cartridge dog. You're going to push it into that 2700, 2750 with the 195. It's just not worth it in the 7 PRC, in my opinion. I think you'd be much better served if you want to shoot that 195 EOL, and that's what you want to shoot. Shoot it in either 28 Nosler or 7 Rem Mag. 7 Rem Mag, if you load it, you'll be able to get 2,900 feet a second out of it. 2850, and this is assuming a 26-inch barrel. So that's what we're going to be looking at. You're just 195 isn't a good bullet, in my opinion, for the 7 PRC, especially if you go to a short barrel. If you're going to be running 2,500 feet a second, if that's what you're wanting to do, good for you. It's just not what I'm going for. Yeah, but even those two, like the 175 EOL and the 175 Elite Hunter and the 170 EOL, still an Elite Hunter for the 270 cals, your 6.8 Western. This one, I'm going to say there's a difference, velocity-wise. Your 7 PRC, you are running 2,900 feet per second, 2,950. Now, the load I've settled on for my 6.8 Western is 2,950. It shoots really, really well. Temperature ranges, like it's N568 is what I'm using. It's 65 grains on the bottom end, 66 grains on the top end. I'm running 66 grains, but like 65, 65 and a half, and 66 grains. They're all grouping no more than an inch, and they're grouping in the same with the same central location of where the group's happening. So yes, that's what I'm running. You're going to run the same velocity pretty much with 7 PRC. They're going to behave the exact same. They're going to resist with the exact same. I don't remember the velocity or the BCs off the top of my head. If I remember correctly, it is a 663 G1 for the 170, and then for the 175 it might be it's really close, it might be a 6.5 or 6.7 something, or 6, I don't remember off the top of my head. I just remember they are stupidly close. All intents and purposes, they're the exact same. They're going to fly the same, they're going to, like, hitting the exact same spot, they're going to behave the same. There's not a whole significant difference. At least hand loading, you're not going to see it. Now, where I think you do see a good bit of difference in these two cartridges actually comes down to the factory ammunition. As of late, I won't say as of late, but I guess as of late, more recent, and just with my experience, Winchester ammunition, you are going to get box velocity. If not, you're going to be faster in 6.8 Western. Just with my 26-inch barrel for the factory ammunition, I have shot out of it. The only two I've shot are actually the 165 ABLR and then the 175 Sierra Tip Game Kings. I think I mentioned both velocities earlier, but just as a refresher, ABLRs were going 30-50, and then the Tip Game Kings, they were going 29-10. And actually, those Tip Game Kings were within plus or minus, I think the lowest I got was a 29.90, and the highest I got was 28.90, and then, or I think 29, or 28.88 maybe. I could be wrong on that. And then the high of like 29.18. So we're talking really, really tight, and that's over, how many shots was that? That was not a full box, but I would say about 15 shots. So, I mean, really, really good. Shot it out to 1,000, did fantastic. Groups really well. I did pull a bullet of that, and it was about 60 grains of powder. It seemed to be where they were centering their powder range around. And I had some Stable HD, it looked like that. So I loaded 60 grains of Stable HD, and I was running 2,800 feet a second, shot a group, and it was a half-inch group at 100 yards. So it shot really well. Not as fast as the factory ammo, so I would dare say that factory ammo is loaded with Ramshot Grand, or your factory counterpart to it. But it shot very, very well out of my rifle. I would probably use that ammo in a pinch if I didn't have hand loads with me and I could go pick that stuff off the shelf. It shot really well. The 165 ABLRs, they shot decent. I think 1.25 was the biggest group I had with that factory ammunition. I was looking on 6.8 Western group earlier today, and a guy had loaded some of those 165 ABLRs with some super performance and got a really, really tight group. Just shot really well. Like, it was just his ladder test, kind of, if you're doing that Little Crow Gunworks kind of 10 shot, 15 shot, going up like 0.3 grains or around that 1 to 2%. I think it's almost 0.5%. It depends on your powder volume, but it's about 0.5% roughly. So if you're in that 60 grain range, you're going up in 0.3s, so about 0.5% increase. But I mean, it was, most of his shots were all touching in the same area, and he was shooting fantastic with it. So that may be something I dabble with in the future, just to see how my rifle does, because the ABLR, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, so treat it as such, and you may have your own opinion, but that ABLR is a bit of a paper bullet. And what I mean by that is everything for it looks good on paper, and then you shoot it and then it doesn't look good on paper. What I mean by that, I just may struggle with reloading it and how it needs to be reloaded, where it needs to be seated and everything. But just by and large, it's a very difficult bullet to get to shoot very well historically and very consistently, group size wise. But I mean, it's a softer bonded bullet that has adequate expansion down to like 13 to 50 feet per second, if I remember correctly. It has a higher BC, buck the wind, you can still get good velocities out of it. Like, just looks good on paper. Just needs to shoot well. If you can get them to shoot well, I would say that's an awesome combination for whatever cartridge you're putting it in. Now I got off that tangent, just speaking factory ammunition again. I guess we all know the powder gate with Hornady. They're not going to change their box velocity. I don't know why. It's, in my opinion, it's very deceptive to the consumer to be like, oh yeah, this ammunition gets 3,000 feet per second. You go shoot it, oh look, 2820. Oh look, 2780. Yes, those are legit numbers. I have heard from people who've shot at 7 PRC in a 24-inch barrel. Kind of, I would say 24 inch is your old standard barrel length. 22 is probably your standard average length now. But in a 24-inch barrel, hey, look, like, this is what you're testing. You're off over 200 feet a second. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I would say and like, that's in good rifles, like good barrels. Like, that's where it gets me, is it's not making velocity in factory ammunition. Yes, your whole moniker is accuracy is key. Yeah, yes, I would say a predictable group size, a predictable solution is way more important. A predictable group size that is predictable out range is way more important than your velocity. If you know where it's going to go, we have the calculators. You can calculate your drops, your drifts, where your absolute limit is. At least for your rifle combination, rifle bullet combination, cartridge, everything that goes into it. Like, there's, like I'll agree there. But if you're still saying you're getting 3,000 feet per second, there's rarely anyone shooting a 30-inch barrel to get that 3,000 feet a second in factory ammo from Hornady and the 7 PRC. Like, this isn't duck hunting. Like, we're trying to we're trying to see the heart right there on the deer, elk, or whatever, and go and get it. Like, that's what we're doing. Anyways, I would dare say, like, if you're getting factory and shooting factory ammunition, I would say 100% hands down. And you're wanting to rely on the box velocity because you do not own a chronograph, get a 24-inch barrel, get a 6.8 Western. It will have a more reliable solution for you. Worst case scenario, you're going to be going a little bit quicker. Which for most people isn't a bad thing. Oh, that reminds me, I did mention I was going to talk a little bit about those 170 ballistic tips from Nosler and the 6.8 Western. So there was a time I was working for a rifle manufacturer, and I was writing up custom turrets for them. And we were doing like rifle packages. You could get a scope, and you would get a custom turret with said scope if you so desired. Someone got a 6.8 Western, and they had 170 ballistic tips from Nosler. That is what shot out of that rifle, like sub half-inch groups reliably. It was getting out of a 24-inch barrel. I think the box velocity is 2920 or 2930 on that ammunition. And out of that rifle, and what I wrote that turret up for was 3040 feet, or 3040 feet a second. We just, for that guy's elevation and everything, we kind of do some calculations just to validate the turret out at range. I think we go out to about 600 yards just to make sure, hey, this turret, it's on, it's working, it's going to do what it needs, or it's doing what it needs to do. And so I wrote it up, and that ammunition, it hammers. Like, it just hit it, and like it hit with authority out at 600 yards. Like, I would not be shy one little bit to shoot that, especially say with my 26-inch barrel. If it's grouping well, say I'm getting 3,100 feet a second with that 170 ballistic tip. The only thing that, like, I will say is a big difference why I'm shooting the Burger over that 170 ballistic tip is the biggest thing that I deal with, and I would say most hunters and shooters deal with, especially like at an amateur level, is wind predictability. That 170 Burger with the higher BC, and I want to say it's a significantly higher BC, not within like say 8 thou or like 2 thou of G1 BC. Like, we're talking about 100 thou difference in the G1 BC, which that's more significant of a difference. That makes a good difference in your ballistic solution, and a more appealing solution. There's been a few instances where I've been hunting, I'm like, and I look out, there's a lot more wind out here. I may be able to get the same velocity with the 170 Burger and the 170 Nosler ballistic tip, but just the fact of the matter where you can get some strong winds, especially in the mountains, I would rather have that Burger just to give me that little bit more forgiveness. Just my thoughts. Now, those bullets, they will, once they expand and open up, they will behave very, very similarly. The ballistic tip will expand more rapidly compared to the Burger, but when they both start expanding and disrupting, they will cause loads of carnage on the inside. But that's a topic for another day. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's just simple, it's just truck talk, just kind of what's been on my mind from the cuff. I mean, this is raw, unedited. I'm just gonna go with it and go from there. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. If you like just plain Jane, like just straight from the cuff, let me know about it. Thanks. Bye.